Well, hello and welcome back to Stonehaven Shorts. I'm Lorianne, and we are definitely avoiding the ordinary today. As you can see from the decor, it is December, beginning of December, and I'm going to do something that I have never done before, and I'm quite certain it will fail. So follow along with me and don't do maybe what I do, or be quite decisive in what you decide on this journey. I want to make a rum-soaked fruitcake. I've never made one. From what I can recall, I don't think my mom actually ever really made one. She might have made fruitcakes, but nothing that was rum-soaked or brandy-soaked. So I went through my plethora of recipes handed down from her, also handed down from my husband's grandmother. And although there were wedding cakes, there were fruit cakes, there were Christmas cakes in there, there was nothing that said rum soaked. So rather than pull out my encyclopedias these days, I Google and I Pinterest and I did everything possible and I asked friends. So what I've come up with is a really good base recipe, thanks to the caring circle of my friends and their extended family. But there were some things in there that I either couldn't find, didn't have, didn't want to spend the money on, or I prefer other flavors. So I am really going to Frankenstein this cake. And at the end of the day, what I feel is if you are soaking it in rum, nothing can go bad. Now, I will warn you that it takes ingredients that you probably don't have on hand. This is something that you're going to have to shop for. Go to your bulk food places that you can get your best deals on, because that's going to be the best budget-wise approach. So I'm going to go through the ingredients and then you'll see where I'm going to have to do a lot of chopping. But let's just go through the ingredients so that you have some sort of an idea of what this is going to be made out of. Okay, so if you can remember what fruitcakes might have been back in the day, in them you have, this is what I believe to be candied citron. So it's just a chopped up candied stuff of fruit or citrus fruits, I imagine. It's very colorful. There's green stuff, orange stuff, red stuff, there's just stuff in it. So some of the recipes call for candied lemon peel, candied orange peel. I didn't have access to that, so I went with this. The next thing that you probably remember seeing are your maraschino candied cherries. So I've got a nice bucket full of those. Now this recipe calls for candied pineapple, however, and I do have that at the bottom here. So I've got this candied pineapple, but I also didn't have enough candied pineapple. So I am going to top it up with candied ginger, because I love the taste of ginger. And maybe the ginger will help settle the rum in it. I don't know. But I topped it up with a little bit of ginger. I hope it's not too overpowering, but it is what it is. The base recipe didn't call for dates, but from what I have read, that dates can really help hold the moisture and keep things nice and dense and moist and easy to cut. So I'm just gonna add in maybe about 4 ounces of dates, and I'm gonna chop these up nice and fine as well. If you are not a fan of raisins, this is probably not the cake for you, because there is a ton of raisins in this recipe that I'm doing. I've got about maybe about 1 1/4 pounds of a mixture of golden raisins, standard raisins. You can put currants in there. I don't particularly like currants, so I've gone with some cranberries. And so, like I said, it's about 1 1/4 to 1 1/4 pounds of a raisin mixture of whatever you decide that you like. Nuts is the next big ingredient, and you can put in whatever you like. I love pecans. My thighs don't, but I do. So I've got pecans and walnuts ready to go in here. There's about 4 ounces of each walnuts and pecans. And then I have lightly toasted almonds that I'm going to put in as well. And there's probably about another 4 ounces of that. Now, the good stuff. So you can choose your rum of choice. Here are some of the things that I have read are good. So, your standard spiced dark rum. I happen to have an unhealthy affection for the Bamboo brand. It's probably one of the more expensive rums, but you're only going to use about a half a cup. So I could probably share a half a cup out of my liquor cabinet for that. I have read where you can put coconut rum in the cake, and I think that might be great too, because some cakes actually call for coconut. I'm not putting any coconut in this one, so I might put a few drops of this in there. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, but Cointreau is an orange liqueur, and that also enhances some of your fruit flavors, so I might put a capful of that in there as well. Feel free to add brandy, sherry, whatever it is that you think is a nice taste to it. I have no idea because I've never made it, and so I might seriously adjust this after. The other thing that you'll need is almond extract. I mean, a lot of us have vanilla extract up the wazoo in our pantries, but we might not always have an almond extract. So that's important to have. After this soaks for 24 hours, some of the other ingredients you're going to need is, of course, your flour, your baking soda. It's taking 5 eggs, white sugar and brown sugar. There are some cakes that are just made with white sugar, but it's a lighter looking cake. I like the darker. It said almond extract, and then your spices, your Christmas spices. So you have cinnamon and mace. Now, I don't have access to mace. I don't have time to run and get mace, so I will substitute it with nutmeg. Although they're from kind of the same tree, the mace is a little bit more pungent and a little bit stronger. So I'll probably just up the amount of nutmeg that I have. So like I said, this is going to seriously be Frankenstein. Hang in there. The first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to chop up my ginger, my dates, and my cherries so I can get them ready to go into the bucket. And then the fun stuff comes where we just add it all together and then we add some rum. So hang in there, folks. It's going to be fun. Didn't take long. I was a little worried, but it was fine. The other thing that they recommend is that you do hand chop it rather than putting it through an automated chopper, just because you want to keep some of that texture and you don't want them to go too fine and make a little puree of sorts. Put some Christmas music on, get some chopping, and list your family. It's all good. Now, here's the fun part. And you also, may I add, you need to have a couple of days to do this. So make sure that you've cleared your schedule 24 hours from now for a good 3 to 4 hours. So, but backing up, this is your first part of your 24 hours. In this handy dandy Tupperware container, which all good things come out of. We are putting in all of the fruit. So here goes my pineapple and my ginger. Here goes my pitted dates. Sticky mess. Here goes the citron or substitute. And here goes all of the cherries. And if you like cherries, you could probably up that a bit. This little citron mix that I have does have some red stuff, which I'm assuming is cherries as well. Your 1.5 pounds of raisins. And even if you don't like raisins, oh heavens, you know what? I'm gonna need a bigger bowl. Even if you don't like raisins, don't fret. Like I said, I did put some cranberries in here. But once you soak this in rum, the rum is the magic ingredient. I got a few chunks here I just want to take apart. I am just going to dump this in here for now, but I am going to get a bigger bowl with a lid. I forgot that I have to put the nuts in at the same time with the fruit. Now, so my nuts, again, walnuts and pecans, about 4 ounces of each. Stay in there. And then we have my almonds, lightly toasted, or if you hang out with Lorianne, maybe mildly burnt because she forgot she was setting up the camera and whatever. Okay, so now to that, we're gonna have to add our alcohol of choice. However, I need to get a bigger bowl. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab that. I'll meet you right back here. Here's the bigger bowl. I'm gonna give that a wee bit of a stir. Now I'm using a metal bowl. I don't know if I should be using a metal bowl or not. Move some of this stuff out of the way here for you. Giving it a quick stir, just so I can get a feel for what the colors look like. Hope you can see that as well. So if you can imagine all of this fruit suspended in a lovely floured cake, I'm thinking that could be quite nice. The smell is already quite nice. I had actually contemplated not toasting the almonds, and I'm glad that I did because I can already smell it in here. It does make quite a bit of difference. Make sure my raisins and cranberries are not in any lumps. I do see a few of that. Now, the base recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of said alcohol. I got a feeling I could probably increase that and nobody would be upset. So, oh gosh, I don't even have a 1/2 cup measure. So, yeah, maybe I'm gonna need that because my eyes get a little big when alcohol's around. So I'm gonna get a 1/2 cup measure. All right, here is the 1/2 cup measure. My friend Bamboo. If you've never had this kind of rum, if you're a rum drinker, this is the best. So I'm gonna sacrifice about a 1/2 cup. Roll that in there. Now, just because it was recommended and it can't be bad, let's throw a cap full of Cointreau. Again, that orange liqueur. Oh, come on, that can't be bad. Maybe 2 capfuls. Okay, I'll split the difference, a 1.5 cups. There we go, of that. I mean, be honest, where else am I gonna use this? Well, I guess I could look. And I didn't add any coconut, so let's see if, oh, that just smells divine. Let's just to keep it real and honest, let's throw in some coconut rum in that as well. Because how can that be bad? Now this mixture of love is going to soak for 24 hours. So I have cleared my schedule for tomorrow evening where I will finish making the rest of this. Now, I am quite certain that if my life goes off the rails tomorrow evening, this could soak for another 24 hours, 48, maybe even longer. and life would still be fine. So don't panic if that's the case. I have read recipes which sound interesting to me, but they feed their cake by poking holes in it, and then they add sort of like a rum syrup to it almost every day for like a week. Or they take a cheesecloth and they soak that in rum and then they wrap it in that and do that every so often as well. So I tend to think that rum is the main ingredient. So you raisin haters, just get over it, because it's all about the rum. Okay, this is a nice mixture. I know I have seen and read where some people actually get in there with their hands, but I'm too pretty for that. So I'm gonna keep my hands clean. I'm gonna put a nice tight, airtight lid on this and leave it for 24 hours. So I will see you tomorrow night where we do the rest of this. Hopefully it turns out. Hang in. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, I give to you the alcohol-soaked dried fruit that we have had soaking for almost 36 hours. I decided to go a little bit longer, partly because my life demanded it, but I mean, how bad can that be to have it soak longer? So now we are going to mix the batter. We're going to add the fruit, and we're going to get into some loaf pans. We're going to get into a low oven. Preheat your oven at 275 and be ready to babysit it for about 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes, sort of like that. So this I'm going to set aside for just a moment while we get our batter together. And like I had mentioned before, the ingredients for the batter, the cake batter, is the 5 eggs. Make sure you have 5 eggs. 2 cups of flour, but you're also going to need another half a cup of flour to sort of dust the fruit so it sort of suspends. And then you need brown sugar and white sugar, a cup of each. And then about a tablespoon of milk. And I'm doing things a little bit different for my milk because I don't normally drink a lot of cow's milk. And then you need your spices, which is mace and cinnamon. If you don't have mace, like I don't have mace, I'm going to be using nutmeg. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to use 2 cups of sifted flour. Now, honestly, this is new to me. I don't even have a flour sifter. I've been looking for one. So if you're looking for a gift for me, feel free to forward that along. The sifted flour, I always thought that you're sifting flour to mix in your baking sodas and your salts and stuff. But in this case, I think you're just trying to get the lumps out of it. So I've pre-measured 2 cups here, and I'm sifting it into my stand mixer's bowl. So 2 cups of sifted flour. Then it's asking you to put in the spices. So to about a half a teaspoon of mace, but because I'm using nutmeg, I'm going to add a little bit more. And I measure my half a teaspoons with just a loving eyeball. So there could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. Cinnamon, I love cinnamon and nutmeg. So again, I'm going to try and just do this the way I like it. Oh, I love that smell. Okay, and then cinnamon, another half a teaspoon of cinnamon, but again, with a little bit of love. And I do feel like I maybe have just a wee bit more fruit than what the recipe calls for. So the recipe says 2 loaf pans, but I think I'm going to use 2 loaf pans plus a little bit more, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Now we're going to put the a half teaspoon of your baking soda in there. So I'm just going to add the baking soda, half a teaspoon. There we go. Now 5 eggs. Now your 5 eggs need to be lightly beat. Some of the recipes that I've read says add the eggs one at a time. You know what? Throw 5 eggs in, beat a little bit with a fork, and get it going in there. And then we're going to add in some milk. Now, remember what I said, I don't use a lot of cow's milk here, and it just so happens that I don't have any milk. So I thought, what if I used coconut milk? Same thing with the Bacardi rum, the coconut rum. Let's try, there's only a tablespoon here. So, Lord, it's a little thick. I don't know why, there we go. So what I'll do, this is coconut milk, right? Yeah, it is coconut milk. It's just super thick right in that one spot. I'll maybe add just a wee bit, because it's asked for about a tablespoon of milk. So I will maybe add just a wee bit of water, because I'll see what the batter's like, but I can always add a wee bit of water to that if I needed to. Then we need about a 1/4 pound of butter or 1/2 cup of butter. I've had this on the counter for about 45 minutes. So it's quasi-soft, throw that in there. And then a cup of white, I don't have a nice spoon here, a cup of white sugar and then a cup of brown sugar. I just happened to pre-measure, threw it all in here. Now, I'm gonna get this into my stand mixer and get this all mixed up. So I'll save you the noise and I'll get it in the mixer and we'll take a look at it as we're mixing it. Luckily, this machine isn't that loud, so it's mixed up quite a nice amount here. Let me just see if I can show it to you. I'm actually new to the whole stand mixer extravaganza. I have never had one until just a couple of years ago, and I quite enjoy it, I'm not gonna lie. So if you don't have one, I would suggest getting one. So here's what the batter looks like, just for a wee bit of mixing. We'll get that in there for a couple more minutes. Okay, so I'll let that go for a couple more minutes. Then we're gonna mix this batter with all of that dried fruit in a very big bowl. And I actually I'm bowl shy here, but I do have this one big bowl. And just thought I'd give you a little bit of background. If you've seen earlier videos, I'm very German, Russian, that kind of thing is my background. And my parents were like first generation born Germans in Canada. Anyways, they always called big bowls like this Buckschüssels. And Buckschüssel, I never knew it as anything else. I didn't know it as a big bowl or a stainless steel bowl, or I didn't know it anything other than a Buckschüssel. And what I understand, and please, if you have more information, comment below, but Bach means bread, and Schüssel is just container or pail or something of that nature. So anyways, I always call it the Buckschüssel. That's my background. Oh, you know what? This is a beautifully blended batter. I'm gonna pause this, get this ready to go, and then we'll throw some flour onto our dried fruit, and then get it all mixed up into the Buckschüssel. We're just about ready here. Let's get the flour sifted or thrown into our dried fruit. By the way, this dried fruit smells so delightful. Give that a mix. My thoughts are, from the research that I've done, when you're flouring fruit, you're just trying to make sure that it doesn't all end up at the bottom of your cake, and that it has some suspending qualities throughout the batter. Now, I have also checked, to those wiser than me, if you are tripling or doubling this recipe, do you need to increase the amount of flour in relation to your dried fruit? And I'm told, no, there's not really a need. So it really is just sort of to give it some suspension qualities. Now, my recipe doesn't say do the batter first or other way around. So this is what we're gonna do. We're just gonna throw the fruit into this big bowl. Okay, and then mix that around. If my spoon is not gonna do the trick, I might have to get in there with my hands. So I do have some gloves sitting aside. If you have a nice big spoon that does the trick, then I suggest that. Here it goes, folks. Here's the batter. Ooh, she's a thick batter. Wowza. Okay. Well, when you have 5 eggs, oh, There we go. Let me tell you, this is not a particularly cheap cake to mix. Perhaps it should have been called the $100 cake or the $300 cake, because it does take a lot of good ingredients and things that you don't normally buy. So just using my finger here to get that scraped off. Let's get at it. Oh, I'm not real smart here. I'm not gonna lick that, raw eggs, although very tempting. Okay, let's see if we can do it with spoons first. You know what? No. You know, I probably could, but what fun is it? Let's just get some gloves on, and let's just get at it. Okay. After this, so my oven is preheating again at 275. I have cleared off 2 hours and 15 minutes to bake it. Oh, yeah. After we get this mixed up, we're gonna prepare those loaf pans. And like I said, I might need a bit more, another loaf pan. I'm not sure, but be prepared for that. You are going to grease the loaf pan so that your parchment paper sticks to the loaf pan. If you don't, then it could be slipping around. So, oh yeah, that's lovely. Okay, well, you know, this may just do. Once you have, I just thought that the batter would just add a lot and I would need more, but maybe I won't. We fill the loaf pans about 3/4 full. And then we make sure that it's pressed down quite nicely in there. The more that it's pressed and the denser it is, the easier it is going to be to slice. Because when you think of it, you have a lot of nuts and fruit in here. It's not going to be, it runs the risk of being easily crumbled, is what I'm saying. Okay, so these gloves can come off. And I'll show you what that looks like. Ah, quite nice. Let me get my loaf pans and we'll start prepping those. We are back with the loaf pans. I don't have fancy schmancy loaf pans because I really don't do a lot of baking, contrary to popular belief. So they're not your famous Christmas ones, but they're loaf pans. Nonetheless, I have a little bit of canola oil in here. You could use, I've seen recipes where you could use butter. I've also seen recipes where you have different types of oil, but really all that you're doing is just oiling the pan so that your wax paper, your parchment paper, I don't know, maybe wax paper would work too if you had that, sticks to the pan. And of course, if anything leaks through that parchment paper, you have a fighting chance of getting that loaf out of the pan. If you look on, I don't know, Pinterest or online or whatever, there might be some really cool ways to customize your wax paper if you're giving it as a gift, or if you want to, I don't know. Anyways, my point is that just sticking your wax paper in with crinkles probably is not your best choice. You do want to make sure that it's flat in most areas, because the more crinkles that you have, of course, the less packing density of your loaf and therefore troubles. So I've gone ahead, measured out, just roughly measured. I've also cut just a little square out of there so that when it does go into the pan, and it's sticking quite nicely with the oil, sort of like wrapping a gift. Then you just package it so that you have a nice little square. And, package it so you have a nice little square and it's not going to fold over on you. What I have also seen, and I'm debating, so I think I might do one loaf with this technique and maybe one without and see what happens. They said to stop it from getting too brown, because you are putting it in an oven for over 2 hours, to then put a piece of wax paper over top or parchment paper over top just for a little bit. So I don't know, I might try that. Oh, I'm without a spoon here, sorry. I might try that on one of them. So again, this is quite stiff. We're gonna fill it about 3/4 full. And I'm just gonna do one loaf pan here for you so you don't have to sit through both, but okay. Ooh. And again, this is new to me as far as the amount in each pan. So let's see if that packs down nicely. I think I might actually need a wooden spoon. Be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Grab a cup of coffee. Okay. I just feel like it sticks to the wooden spoons, but maybe not. No, we're doing good. So the idea is to make sure that it's nice, densely packed, all the corners. It has to be dense and packed, because if not, you're gonna have trouble slicing it. There should be enough moisture in this cake that it's not going to crumble. Yeah, I definitely am gonna have more than 2 loaves now that I look at it. The other thing that we have to prepare for is make sure that your rack, of course, is about the middle of your oven. And you want to make sure that these are all on the same level. You don't want to have, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, and then you're busy babysitting it to rotate it. This is not one of those pans that are going, or one of these cakes that are going to rise a lot, but you don't want it to, there is some baking soda in it, so it's going to come up a wee bit. I think I have that about 3/4 full. I'll give you a quick look at it here. Okay, that's what we're looking at for about 3/4 full. I will do the other loaf pan like that. And if I have any left over, which I think I will, I thought it might be fun to put something in these mini loaf pans. So although the wax paper might be a bit of a challenge to fit into here, I think I'm willing to give it a go. So I am going to finish this up and then we're going to pop it in the oven. Ooh, this is getting exciting, folks. Look at, I was able to fit it into 2 loaf pans. The trick is make sure that it's densely packed. So this recipe, 2 loaf pans. Don't freak out with how much fruits and nuts that you have, because it'll fit. And it still is at 3/4. So 2 loaf pans, wax paper, parchment paper lined, also greased the pans. Hopefully this worked out. Popping this into an oven now, 275 degrees for 2 hours, 15 minutes. One of them, I am going to put, probably the darker pan, I am going to put a wee bit of paper on top, just to see if that makes a difference in the darkness of it all. Now there is white sugar and brown sugar in this batter, so I expect it not to be too dark, but I don't know, this is the first time I've ever made it. Let's pop it in the oven and I'll check in with our video a couple of times during the process so we can see what it looks like. I've got about halfway done here and I just removed the wax paper from this darker loaf pan, and I think it definitely did make a difference because it's not, it's a little bit more underdone than this one. But I just don't think it makes a big difference in the darkness of the loaf. So I'm gonna leave it off and see what the end results are. But that's what my preliminary findings are, is that I don't think it's that necessary. This is at about 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'm told that if you put your finger on it, it's done when it doesn't hold the indent. So I'm thinking it's pretty much done. It
bounces. It's bouncing back, people. I think it's done.
It has come out of the oven. You've seen where I've tested it. It is nice and solid. It's not creating any indents when I put my finger on it. I've taken one out already to cool. I'm taking the second one out. It's nice and easy with the wax paper. You just lift it up, out, lay it down on your rack, bring it back, and let it cool. These turned out amazing. I am actually a little proud of myself for actually taking this on, because I was quite scared to do it, and B, having the patience to do it. It actually worked out great. Now, as you can see, it's a little bit lighter than what you may have originally thought of what a fruitcake would look like. We normally see them, they're quite dark. I am told that the longer it sits, the more that it ages, and then the darker it gets. How cool is that? I've also seen where they've added icing on top of it, like sort of like a cream cheesy butter icing, clearly because there's not enough calories in it right now, so why not add some more? I am quite certain that you could take a slice of this and go skiing or snowshoeing all day, because of the calories in it would keep you energized. Nonetheless, the best way to have this is with a slice of cheddar cheese right next to a steaming hot cuppa. So hopefully you take this on, enjoy it. The smell is incredible. And for those who may have thought of fruitcake in the past as something kind of bleh that your mom or your grandma made that you didn't have a taste for, try it again. It really does make a difference. Avoid the ordinary here at Stonehaven, and enjoy your Christmas season in which any way, shape, or form it takes. We'll see you again.